An exhausted single mom was just trying to help a struggling blind customer. That simple act cost her the job she desperately needed to support her daughter. But at 3 a.m., her phone rang with news that would change everything. The U.S. military had surrounded her apartment building, and a general was waiting to speak with her. "Hi, everyone. Let's get started." Miranda's feet ached as she stocked energy drinks in the quick-stop refrigerator case. "Just one more hour until my night shift ends," she thought. "Then I can collapse in my tiny apartment." The night differential wasn't much, but it paid for after-school care for her 9-year-old daughter, Penny. Working nights wasn't ideal, but single moms don't get many choices. The door jingled, and Miranda looked up to see a middle-aged man in dark sunglasses tapping a white cane hesitantly in front of him. Something about his movement seemed different, more uncertain than most visually impaired people she'd encountered. "Hello?" he called out, frustration edging his voice. "Is anyone working here?" Miranda quickly set down the case of drinks. "Yes, sir. I'm right here. How can I help you?" The man's shoulders relaxed at her voice. "I just need a few basic items. Would you mind? I hate to impose, but I'm still getting used to this." He gestured vaguely toward his eyes. "No problem at all," Miranda replied, approaching him. "I'd be happy to help you find whatever you need." "Thank you. I'm Greg," he said, extending his hand slightly off-center. "Miranda," she replied, gently guiding his hand to hers. "What are you looking for today?" "Just some aspirin, bottled water, and maybe a sandwich if you have them." Miranda glanced toward the counter where her manager, Trevor, was supposed to be watching the register, but as usual, he was in the back office, probably scrolling through his phone. The employee handbook strictly stated that cashiers should never leave the front unattended, but she couldn't just let this man struggle alone. "Let me grab those things for you," she said, guiding him through the store. As they walked, Greg explained he'd only recently lost his sight and was trying to navigate daily tasks independently. "My daughter would kill me if she knew I was out alone," he said with a wry smile. "But I've been dependent on others for months now. I just needed to prove to myself I could do something simple." Miranda thought of her own father who had passed away after a long battle with Parkinson's. "I understand that," she said quietly. "My dad was the same way." When they returned to the register, Greg fumbled with his wallet. "I'm sorry," he said, frustration evident. "I can't tell the bills apart yet." Miranda saw the 20s and 1s mixed together. "No worries at all. Let me help." "What the hell is going on here?" Trevor's voice sliced through the quiet store. Miranda turned to see her manager standing there, arms crossed, face flushed with anger. "I'm just helping this customer," Miranda began. "I can see that," Trevor snapped. "You left the register unattended for over 5 minutes. That's a fireable offense, and you know it." "But, sir," Greg interjected, "she was only helping me because I asked. It's not your concern." Trevor cut him off rudely. "And you?" He turned back to Miranda. "Were you rifling through his wallet? Are you serious right now?" "I wasn't," Miranda protested, her heart sinking. "He has the identify the bills." "Sure he did," Trevor sneered. "Look, I've been wanting to clean house anyway. You're too soft. Always making exceptions for people, and this place is a business, not a charity." Miranda felt heat rise to her face. "He's blind, Trevor. What was I supposed to do?" "Not my problem, and not yours anymore either. You're fired. Grab your stuff and get out. Greg stood perfectly still, his expression unreadable behind his dark glasses. "Sir, I must insist," he said. "It's okay," Miranda said quietly, touching his arm. "It's not worth it." She turned to Trevor. "Let me just finish helping this customer and I'll go." Miranda's hands trembled as she helped Greg count out the correct bills. After completing the transaction, she slipped him her number. "If you ever need help again, just call. I don't work here anymore, obviously, but I'm usually around." Greg's hand found hers and squeezed it gently. "I'm so sorry about your job." Miranda forced a smile he couldn't see. "It's okay. Something better will come along." But as she collected her few belongings, she wondered how she'd make rent this month. Jobs weren't easy to find in their small town, especially ones that worked with her need for night shifts. Outside in the cool night air, Miranda finally allowed a few tears to escape. Penny was staying with a neighbor tonight, which meant Miranda at least had a few hours to figure out what she'd tell her daughter about losing her job. "I saw what happened in there." The voice startled her. Miranda spun around to find a woman in her 30s leaning against a black sedan in the parking lot, dressed in crisp business attire despite the late hour. "Excuse me?" Miranda asked, instinctively stepping back. "With that blind gentleman," the woman clarified. "Most people wouldn't have done what you did." "It wasn't anything special," Miranda replied cautiously. "Anyone would have helped him." The woman smiled slightly. "We both know that's not true." She offered Miranda a business card. "My name is Captain Diane Reynolds. If you're interested in a new job opportunity, give me a call tomorrow." Miranda took the card reflexively. It was plain white with just a name and phone number, no company, no title. "What kind of job?" she asked, suspicious. "One that values people who do the right thing, even when it costs them," Captain Reynolds replied cryptically. She opened her car door and paused. "Mr. Winters told me to thank you again for your help." Before Miranda could ask how she knew Greg's last name, the woman was driving away, leaving Miranda with more questions than answers. What Miranda couldn't have known was that this chance encounter would set in motion events that would transform her life in ways she never imagined. The insistent buzz of her phone jolted Miranda awake at exactly 3:17 a.m. Groggily, she reached for it, expecting a text from her former co-worker who had promised to talk to Trevor. Instead, she found an alert from her apartment building security system. Multiple vehicles detected in parking area. Confused, Miranda tapped the notification, which opened to the building security camera feed. What she saw made her sit bolt upright. The parking lot was filled with military vehicles. Not just one or two, but at least 10 Humvees, their headlights illuminating the pre-dawn darkness. Men and women in full military dress uniforms stood in formation, while others seemed to be setting up some kind of command post. "What the hell?" Miranda whispered, scrambling out of bed. She rushed to her window and peeked through the blinds. The camera hadn't been playing tricks on her. The entire parking lot looked like a military operation. Her phone rang, making her jump. The caller ID showed the building manager's name. "Hello?" she answered tentatively. "Miss Walker, this is Jim from the front desk. I'm sorry to wake you, but there are some, military personnel here asking to speak with you. They say it's important." "Military personnel?" Miranda repeated, her mind racing. "Did they say what they want?" "No, ma'am. But there's a general here. A real general with stars and everything says it can't wait till morning. Miranda's hands shook as she quickly made herself presentable. What could the military possibly want with her? The elevator ride to the lobby felt eternal. When the doors finally opened, Miranda found her normally quiet apartment lobby transformed. A dozen uniformed officers stood at attention while a distinguished man with silver hair and stars on his shoulders talked quietly with the wide-eyed building manager. The conversation stopped as she entered, every head turned in her direction. "Miranda Walker?" the silver-haired man asked, stepping forward. "Yes," Miranda replied, her voice smaller than she intended. "What's going on?" "I'm General Robert Hayes," he said, extending his hand. "I apologize for the early hour and the dramatic entrance, but when we learned what happened at the quick stop last night, we felt immediate action was necessary." Miranda hesitantly shook his hand. "The quick stop? You mean me getting fired? I don't understand what that has to do with the military." General Hayes exchanged glances with a woman standing nearby, the same woman from the parking lot, Captain Reynolds. "Perhaps we should continue this conversation somewhere more private," the general suggested. 5 minutes later, Miranda found herself sitting in her small apartment living room across from General Hayes, Captain Reynolds, and 2 other high-ranking officers. The surreal nature of the situation wasn't lost on her. 4 decorated military officers perched on her second-hand furniture at 3:30 in the morning. "Miss Walker," General Hayes began, "the man you assisted last night, the one who identified himself simply as Greg, is actually Major Gregory Winters, one of our most decorated Special Forces operatives." Miranda stared at them. "The blind man?" "Yes and no," Captain Reynolds interjected. "Major Winters suffered an injury during a classified operation 3 months ago that left him temporarily blind. He's scheduled for surgery next week that we believe will restore his sight, but in the meantime, he's been struggling with his independence. He went out against medical advice last night," another officer added. "Wanted to prove he could manage on his own. We had people following him discreetly, but we didn't intervene, because this was important for his psychological recovery. Then we witnessed how you helped him," Captain Reynolds continued. "With dignity, respect, and kindness. And we saw what it cost you." Miranda shook her head, still processing. "So you're here because Major Winters was deeply troubled by my termination." General Hayes explained, "When he returned to base and told us what happened, we reviewed the quick-stop security footage." "You can do that?" Miranda asked, surprised. The officers exchanged amused glances. "We have certain capabilities," the general said diplomatically. "What we saw was a clear example of the type of character and compassion that's all too rare these days." "I appreciate that," Miranda said carefully, "but I still don't understand why the military would care about a convenience store cashier losing her job." General Hayes leaned forward. "Miss Walker, are you familiar with the Military Family Support Division?" Miranda shook her head. "We're a specialized unit that provides comprehensive services to military personnel and their families during deployments, medical crises, and transitions back to civilian life," he explained. "It's critical work that requires individuals with exceptional empathy, discretion, and moral character. Qualities you demonstrated last night," Captain Reynolds added. "We currently have an opening at the base for a civilian family liaison coordinator. The position includes full benefits, housing allowance, and a starting salary of $65,000 per year, General Hayes continued. Miranda's jaw dropped. That was more than twice what she'd been making at the quick stop. "Are you offering me a job?" she asked incredulously. "We are," the general confirmed. "Major Winter specifically requested it, and after reviewing your background—" "You looked into my background?" Miranda interrupted, unsure whether to be flattered or alarmed. "Standard procedure," Captain Reynolds assured her. "Your work history, your volunteer activities at your daughter's school, your handling of your father's care during his illness. Everything indicates you're exactly the kind of person we need." Miranda sat back, overwhelmed. "This doesn't seem real. Things like this don't just happen." "Sometimes they do," General Hayes said with a gentle smile. "Sometimes one small act of kindness opens doors you never knew existed." As the officers prepared to leave, Miranda found her voice again. "Wait, why all of this?" She gestured toward the window where the Humvees were still visible. "Why the middle-of-the-night military convoy?" General Hayes paused at the door. "Major Winters is a highly decorated officer who saved countless lives. When he asks for something, we tend to respond with appropriate urgency." His eyes crinkled at the corners. "And between us, he was quite insistent that we make a proper impression." After they left, Miranda stood at her window, watching the military procession depart. The sky was just beginning to lighten with the first hints of dawn. In a few hours, she would need to pick up Penny and somehow explain everything that had happened. She looked down at the card in her hand, still warm from where she'd been clutching it. $65,000 a year. Benefits. Housing. A real career helping people who needed it. All because she'd taken a few minutes to help a blind man buy a sandwich and some aspirin. The quick stop was nearly empty when Miranda pushed through the glass doors at precisely 10:45 a.m. Trevor was at the register, looking as bored and irritated as ever. He straightened when he saw her, his face instantly hardening. "You're not supposed to be here," he said, hand moving toward the phone. "I'll call the police if I have to." Miranda held up her hands. "I'm just here as a customer, Trevor. Nothing more." His eyes narrowed suspiciously as Miranda selected a bottle of water and brought it to the counter. She noticed a "Help Wanted" sign taped beside the register. It hadn't taken long for them to try to replace her. "That'll be $179, Trevor said flatly. Miranda handed him exact change, then lingered. "How's the hiring going?" Trevor scowled. "Not that it's any of your business, but the last two quit after 2 days. Nobody wants to work night shift." "That sounds stressful," Miranda said mildly. "Look, if you're here to beg for your job back, you're wasting your time," Trevor snapped. Miranda smiled. "Actually, I don't want my job back. I just wanted to thank you." "Thank me?" Trevor blinked in confusion. "For firing me, in a way, yes." Miranda took out her new official business card with a military insignia and slid it across the counter. "If you hadn't fired me for helping Major Winters, I wouldn't have been offered this." Trevor picked up the card, his expression changing from confusion to disbelief as he read it. "Military Family Support Division. This is some kind of joke, right?" "Not at all. The blind man I helped was a decorated Special Forces officer. His superiors were quite impressed when they reviewed the security footage and saw how you handled the situation." The color drained from Trevor's face. "Security footage? They saw what happened?" "Every word," Miranda confirmed. General Hayes was particularly interested in your management style. Trevor set the card down with trembling fingers. Are you saying the military's watching the store? Miranda shrugged. I'm not at liberty to discuss operational details, but I can tell you that Major Winters has a lot of friends in high places, people who care about how veterans are treated. She picked up her water bottle and turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Trevor, I'd reconsider your policy about helping disabled customers. You never know who might be watching. As Miranda pushed through the doors into the sunlight, she heard the distinct sound of Trevor frantically dialing the phone. She couldn't help but smile. It wasn't about revenge, but there was something deeply satisfying about Trevor finally understanding the consequences of his callousness. But we're really going to live on an army base? Penny asked for the third time, her eyes wide with excitement as she bounced on her bed. Miranda smiled as she folded another of her daughter's T-shirts and placed it in the half-packed suitcase. It had been 2 weeks since that surreal pre-dawn meeting, and they were almost ready for the move. Yes, sweetie. Our new house is right on the base, and you'll go to school there, too. Will there be other kids like me? Penny asked, suddenly serious. Miranda sat down beside her daughter and tucked a strand of hair behind the girl's ear. Lots of them. Kids whose parents work for the military, just like I will now. And the man you helped? He's a real hero. Major Winters. Yes, he is, Penny said. You'll meet him tomorrow. Penny wrapped her small arms around Miranda's neck. I knew you were special, Mom. Dad always said you had a heart bigger than the whole world. Miranda swallowed the lump in her throat. Tim had been gone for 4 years now, a construction accident that had left her a widow at 28. But sometimes Penny still remembered things he'd said. I'm not special. Honey, I just did what anyone should do. That's what makes you special, Penny said with the simple wisdom of a 9-year-old. You do the stuff everyone should do, but don't. As Miranda held her daughter close, she marveled at how completely their lives had changed. A simple act of kindness in a convenience store had set off a chain of events that transformed their entire future. Sometimes the universe has a way of returning kindness when you least expect it. And sometimes doing the right thing in your darkest moment can lead to the brightest of new beginnings.